Welcome back. In this presentation, we're going to talk about project meetings. So the first thing that we need to do is start here from our project dashboard, and we can jump in and access our meetings from the ribbon at the top. So we can just click on the meetings button. We can also, again, access our project meetings by clicking the document management at the top and going to our project meetings. So here we're looking, if we look at our breadcrumb, we were at projects, we were at the Bishop Highline project, and now we're looking at our project meetings for this project. So the first thing that we'll do is create a new project meeting. When we first get into here, we can see that our event type is a project meeting. Don't change this. It will change the type of event that we're dealing with, but we want to be doing a project meeting here, so just leave that alone. The next thing is our meeting subject. So we could say this is our weekly OAC meeting, owner, architect, contractor meeting. Our project is Bishop Highline. Here's our category. We can decide what type of meeting it is, and we can add more in here if we need to. Next thing we're going to do is put in the date and time. So I'm just going to go through and I'll just leave it in here. We put in our date, and then there's a time. You can either enter in the time here, or there's a time widget. It's kind of small, but you can select this little widget down here at the bottom, and you can say that this meeting is at 8 a.m. And you can say the duration, 60 minutes or 120 minutes or hours or whatever it is. So we'll just say it's 2 hours. We can set up reminders to let us and all of the attendees know. One of the things to point out about the project meetings in 2020 is they really are a lot like an Outlook meeting invite. That's kind of how they start out. So I guess we'll talk that in a second. We'll put the job site as the location here, and we can specify when our next meeting is. Let's say it's a week from today. Okay, so now we're dealing with the attendees part, and you'll notice that in the attendees section, there's actually 3 tabs. The first tab is who's invited. So we're going to invite Brant, and we're going to invite Rusty, and anybody else that we want to invite to this. Now, again, because we can actually send out invites and get responses from these individuals, whether they're going to attend or not, we can decide whether to send them an email or not. So this checkbox, do not send email, it will not send anything to these people. If we did not check that, they'll get an email invite, and they'll be able to check, yes, I'm going to go, or no, I'm not going to go. And their responses would show up right here in this section right here. Okay, so now, as we're starting our meeting, the next tab of the attendees is our actual attendees. So of all of the people that are on the invited attendee list, now we can go to our actual attendees, hit add an item, and we're going to see those 3 items to decide whether they actually showed up to the meeting or not, whether they actually attended. So I'm going to select all 3 of these people. They all attended the meeting. Now we have the meat of the meeting. So we have notes. So the notes work in a rollover effect. So I've just created the first one. So here is the title of the first item. This is an open item. I can decide who's responsible. We could say Brant's responsible and Rusty, and we can decide all the people that have responsibility for this item. When its original due date is, we'll say it's this Friday, if there's any revised due date or completed date. And then we have some discussion notes. So our discussion notes also work in a time fashion, because as we're working on these action items, we want to be able to keep track of all of the discussions that we're having. Maybe in our next meeting, we're still discussing this particular item, and we want to keep track of all of those discussions and when they occurred. So let's put in our first discussion here. We'll just put in the date. Here are the details of our first discussion. And I'll just click off of that to save, and I'll save and close. So now you can see that we have one new action item here for our project meeting. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Let's just say that everything looks good. Well, you know what? Let's add one more item so we can close one out. Item number 2, and we'll say Brant is responsible, and we'll put a due date in here for today and some notes. Discussion notes. Okay, save and close. Okay, so as we're working through this, you know, we're keeping track of the different action items that we're working on here. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then we have a couple of different print options. So if you print, this is one form of the project meeting, but then we also have a number of different forms to print this off. So if you want to see all the discussions for all the action items that are on this form, so all these 2 items, all of the discussions, that's going to be this first one here. This one is just the last discussion. So if there's 5 discussions on this particular item, it will only show the last one. This one's the last 3, the last 5, and this one will show no discussion. So just to show you what a report looks like here real quick, I'll select one, print it off and open it up. So we have the details of the project, who actually attended. Then we have a listing of all of our open items, because both of the items on that project are actually open at this time. So we have item number 1.1. Here's the subject. Here's all the people that were responsible. And here's all the discussion notes. Same thing for item 1-2. Okay, so now let's create the next meeting. So let's say that we're not on this same screen. We're back at our project screen. Let's go and do this process again. So let's go to the Bishop Highline project. And now let's go to our meetings, and we'll see a listing of all of our meetings. But one key thing that you'll notice here is one of these meetings is going to be blue, and it's going to have a checkbox next to the current. When you're creating a new meeting, if a meeting already exists, we always want to inherit everything that happened from the previous meeting. If there's open items from the previous meeting, we want those to roll over to the next meeting. So it's very important when creating a new meeting that you always click on the previous most current meeting, and that's the one in blue. So we'll click on that one. And then in the top left, there's a button called Next Meeting. So I'm just going to go through and create Next Meeting. Now you can see we're on meeting number 2, and it's marked current. So I'm just going to quickly save this, and then we'll go back and look at our meeting log, and now you'll see that we have meeting number 1. It's not the current one anymore. Meeting number 2 is now the blue current meeting. So I'm going to open that back up and edit it. Same thing. We're going to have a listing of all of the attendees, but now they've rolled over from the previous one. So when we go to our actual attendees, we can see all of those people that are here, and we can just delete them if we need to. But we have a listing in our action items of all of the open items. So we might come in and say, I'm going to create a new item. New issues have come up. So here's a new issue. And Rusty is responsible. And we have a due date for this week. And here are all the notes. These are all the details of the issue, and we'll save and close that. So now we have a new issue. You notice it doesn't have a number yet because we have not saved this yet. So if I were to go and save, it will pull all the details off of this new meeting, and now you can see we have meeting number 2, issue number 1 is a new issue. So in this meeting, we're entering in new issues, we're putting in new discussions, but we may be closing out some of the issues as well. So to close, all you need to do is click this checkbox here and hit the closed button, and it will change the status from open to closed. So now you can see we have 2 open items and 1 closed item here. Now that it's saved, I'm just going to go ahead and we'll print this off, and we'll do the last 3 discussions report. And this will be a little bit different. Now it's going to show our open items here and items that were closed this meeting. All the discussion notes will show up if we've put any discussion notes on them. So again, the key things to remember are when you're creating a new meeting, always remember to create the next meeting based on the most current meeting. Always do the one in blue. Other than that, I don't think you can go wrong. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments or any ways that we can improve or make this process better. And we look forward to having you on the next video. Thanks.